Hey Sky Fam, it's your girl Era Rose and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I talk about all things travel and flight attendant related and even some travel influencer content. The Sky Fam is the best fam around, so if you're not in part of it, then what are you doing, right? Right. Just come on and join. Subscribe, like, and let's get into this. I probably should have already given this to you, but it's probably better that now I'm actually at a company that actually has a commuter policy and I can speak to commuting for over a year now. And so I'm going to give you my top 5 apps and the tips that come along with them that I use to get me from one place to the next. Commuting is a science and an art, especially if you're at a company that does not have a commuter policy like I once was. You want to keep your job. And so it's really important that you figure out how you get from home to work. If you are just looking into becoming a flight attendant, if you don't know much about the industry, I suggest that you watch a lot of my videos that go in depth about the training process. But one thing you really have to understand is that it's very likely that you will not be based in the city that you live in. The company you work for may not even have a base at the city that you live in, or it might be really senior, like in my case, and I won't see that base being an option for like a decade, who knows, unless like something magical happens. Before we even get into this, let's get into understanding your commuter policy. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a commuter policy, I am happy for you. That was without a doubt the most stressful part of commuting, was not having any type of backing from my company or my union saying that if I didn't make it in, and it wasn't even my fault, like I was there, I was at the gate, the flight was full, the jump seat was taken, that it still doesn't matter that I tried everything in my control to get to base and it still didn't work. So if you have a commuter policy, make sure you read it and read it twice. Understand how many times you have to try on your own airline and how many times you have to try on other airlines, because that's typically how commuter policies work. Either you don't have one at all, which is tragic, I'm sorry, or there is a setup of how many times you have to try on yours and how many times you have to try on another airline. For me, our commuter policy is we have to try once on our airline. And now you'll hear in training, you'll hear from the union, whoever, you have to list and present. That means you have to list for the flight. So you actually get online, you check in, whatever, you list for the flight, and present is actually be at the gate. We have one attempt on our airline, list and present. If you do not make it on and it's out of your control, you are automatically covered. One attempt. If you're like me and you live at an airport that is dominated by a major airline that's not your own, and they have multiple flights out a day, then you might be flying on one of those big airlines that's not yours. You have to list for at least 2 of those. And if you don't make it onto both of them, then you're covered. Now, if things happen in the air, I can't speak for other airlines now. For me, for us, if things happen in the air and let's say you have to divert, you're still covered. They can't contact you in the air, obviously, you know, your phone's on airplane mode. They might be calling you, whatever. Once you land from that diversion, then you would call them and update them and you would still be covered. Again, it's something out of your control. The purpose of a commuter policy is to not hinder you when things are out of your control, which is what I think is very nice to have, because sometimes that's just really the case. Like, it's not that you didn't try to get to work, it's that you tried everything in your ability to get there and you still just couldn't. Just want to go over some terms with y'all. Non-rev literally just stands for non-revenue. I hope this is the right direction. I told y'all a long time ago I was gonna figure it out. It still hasn't happened, whatever. It just means the airline isn't making money from it. So please understand that while you are flying to your airlines, you're not paying for your flight to get to and from work. So while the idea of commuting might seem crazy to you, at least understand that the price of the tickets to get to and from work are not coming out of your pocket. I've had that question asked to me before, and so I just want to clarify that. Jump seating, we did not have a jump seat agreement at my prior airline. For us now, Our policy is anyone that works at our company can jump seat, which is different. We have more than 2 types of aircrafts, but for this example, I'm gonna say we have 2 types of aircrafts. We have the 700 and the 800. There's variations of both, but basically we have the 700 and the 800. Now for the 700, there's only 1 jump seat, so you'll hear fourth. With my airline, you'll hear people say they're gonna fourth, because there's 3 flight attendants on our 700, and so that leaves 1 open extra jump seat. So you'll be like, oh, can I fourth? Up to the gate you're going to present, they're like, oh, your odds don't look good, do you want a fourth? That's what it means. It means that there is a jump seat available to open. Now, I feel like that terminology is significant to our airline, and so if that doesn't make sense to you, it's okay. If you're coming to my airline or at my airline, then that's what it means. If it's a fourth, that's just the jump seat. It's the same thing. Now for our 800, there's gonna be 2 extra jump seats available because there's 4 flight attendants on those flights. So sometimes they'll still say fourth, or sometimes they'll say 5th and 6th. So it just depends on the gate agent and what terminology they wanna use. The first and most used app that I use to check flights is Flight View. Now I'm gonna go into some screen recordings, and I don't know if I'm gonna do voiceovers or if I'm gonna put it right here. All right, so we are in my phone, we're in my travel categories. I'm just gonna swipe over to Flight View. So you're gonna go over to the My Route option, and so you can put in any route that you go to. So I'm gonna put in Atlanta, and then I'm gonna do to Midway. And this is pre-recorded, so this is October 4th. I'm gonna click Find Flights, and then this shows me every single flight that is going out that day. This is really, really helpful. So that way you know which flights are going close together, or if you miss one flight, how long you'll be waiting for the next one. But this is great. At the bottom, you see it's all the same time. It's all the same flight. It's just the different carriers that would fly under. So don't get confused about that part. But overall, this is my #1 go-to app, and you can leave any questions below if you have any more questions about this app specifically. Okay, so the reason I love Flight View so much is because it shows me every single flight that is gonna go out on any given day. It also shows if there's delays, if it's canceled. It gives you actual updates, so that's really, really helpful. Commuting works both ways, right? You're commuting to work, but you're commuting back home, okay? And sometimes I joke like getting home is more important than getting to work, but if you're a flight attendant, you know what I mean, because like we want to get home on our off days, but y'all, getting to work is very, very important. You have to take minimum 2 legs to get to work. Flightboard might be your friend, okay? Especially when you're in a pinch. So once again, I'm going to open up my travel folder, and I'm going to go to Flightboard. It's going to automatically open to Midway because that's my base. But if we have an example where, let's say you live in Las Vegas and you need to get to Midway, but you have to take at least 2 flights to get there, and you're thinking of going through Los Angeles, you can then search LAX, and you can see all of the flights that are arriving there. So you can look for the ones arriving from Vegas, and you can see that this is every single flight that is arriving in LAX. And then there's also another tab that has every single flight that is departing from LAX. So you can get a really good understanding of how you can maybe take the scenic route, as I used to say, if you don't have a direct flight in order to get to your base. This can be really helpful if you have to be a little creative. Flightboard shows you every single flight coming into the airport. Okay? So this is very helpful because then you can figure out the route that you need to take to get there. Well, this worked out for me as well when I was just traveling leisurely and I was in Puerto Rico. And I was trying to figure out how I was gonna get home. The direct flight looked real bad. Sold out. There was like 12 people on standby. I really didn't think I was gonna make it out, but I had to get back. I used Flightboard to see the best route of how I could get to Atlanta just out of Puerto Rico. I just knew I needed to be back on mainland US soil, and from there I could get to Atlanta somehow. Please leave a question in the comments below and I will be happy to answer it, okay? Because I'm not trying to confuse y'all, I'm trying to help y'all. Number 3 is StaffTraveler. Now, I never really used StaffTraveler, and now I understand again why. It goes back to me being at that regional, us working directly with those airlines and having direct access into those portals. So we could see their numbers. Now I don't have that access. So now I have to use StaffTraveler sometimes. StaffTraveler is actually very helpful. When you first sign on, it is going to ask you questions about what airline you're from, like what airline you work at, and some type of verification. And then it gives you 5 questions free. And then after that, you have to answer questions from your own airline, the numbers for your airline, to be able to ask more questions from others about their airlines. Now, at first I was like, that seems like, why do I have to do that? But honestly, I feel like I'm helping people now. Like they're people in the same situation as me. They're trying to get home, they're trying to get to work, they're trying to get to family. And so I absolutely, sometimes I'll just get on and I'll answer like 10, things that are open and just close it out.
I'm gonna go back into my travel folder and open up StaffTraveler. You'll first see an old request that I have, but the date is past, so it just disappears. For this example, I'm going to look up Atlanta to Montego Bay. So if you want to use it for leisure travel, this works as well. You're just going to put in the destinations, the date, click the flight that you actually want, and then click post. I wasn't going to post it because this is an example, but that's all you'd have to do. On the home page, you see at the bottom where it has request. So someone is actually answering somebody else's question about our numbers, and then further down, you see those are requests that I've already answered for others as well.
It's an airline that has like first class, premium economy, economy plus, and then economy. There's breakdowns for all of that. And then there is a section for people on standby. So you know how many people are listed for the actual flight, like actual paying customers, and then you know how many people are listed as a standby as well. Number 4 that you need to have is ID 90. Now, I never used this before being in the airline industry.
Again, we're in my travel folder and I'm going to open up ID 90. I'm going to hit that flight button at the top in the listing tool. So you want to make sure that you are listing as a flight attendant commuting. You're just going to put your location, where you're trying to fly to, the date, and then it will bring up all those routes for you. You can choose the best one for you. And then once you choose that route, it'll show you about a percentage of how many seats are still available on that flight and the standby list, but no one is currently on it.
It shows you like the percentage that might be available on the airline for the specific flight that you're looking for, which can be useful. Finally, I just suggest having your own airline carrier's app and the apps of the airlines that you use most frequently, so that is going to be the easiest way and quickest way you get updates. But I hope this was useful. If you still have any questions about commuting, please feel free to leave it in the comments section below. I hope this wasn't too long. If you are new here, please again make sure that you subscribe to our channel and join our Sky fam. Until next time, bye.